Next up, we have Representative Norris, House File 3799. We are going to be laying this bill over, so I will move to lay over House File 3799. Representative Norris, welcome back to the committee. Please explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Moeller and members. It's great to be with you. I'm pleased to introduce House File 3799. This bill will create an Office of Animal Protection under the Department of Public Safety. Animal cruelty is an ongoing concern in Minnesota, but the tools for education, training, and enforcement throughout the state are inconsistent. While some communities have expertise and resources to tackle these crimes, many do not. The purpose of this office is to provide a more comprehensive approach to prevent and respond to the crime of animal cruelty. We've all heard of serial killers torturing animals before going after people, but animal cruelty is also linked to more common crimes such as child abuse, domestic violence, and elder abuse. This office will address the crime of animal cruelty and its link to human violence. The office will not take over, but instead will assist local authorities in the enforcement of animal cruelty laws. The office will also include an advisory council as well as a director to guide its efforts. It will take a multidisciplinary approach, providing expertise and training for investigations, prosecution, veterinary forensics, animal care, and human welfare as it relates to cruelty. The duties of this office also include building partnerships and collaboration statewide, gathering and analyzing crime data, and allowing for grants to help prevent cruelty. Importantly, this bill does not make any changes to the definitions of animal or animal cruelty that are already established in state statute. The work needs to begin to understand and respond to these crimes and protect the public's peace, health, and safety for all animals and people. Thank you, Chair Mueller.
Yep, thank you. And I believe that you have a couple of testifiers here.
Yes, I do.
All right, first we have James Backstrom, retired Dakota County attorney. It's been a while. Good to see you. Please introduce yourself and begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. It's an honor to be here again. It's been a little while, as you said. I had the privilege and honor of serving as a Dakota County attorney for 33 years before I retired in February of 2021. I also served as a member of the Board of Directors of the Minnesota County Attorneys Association for 31 years and as a board member on the National District Attorneys Association for 28 years. During my career, my office prosecuted many cases of animal cruelty, from a single animal being hurt and abused to hundreds of animals being neglected or abused. These are serious issues that need to be appropriately addressed by our criminal justice system. Violence in the form of animal cruelty can lead to, is often associated with other types of crimes, as Representative Norris indicated. Domestic violence being one of the prevalent ones, but many others as well. If this is ignored, such violence can continue and become more severe. I support this bill because it will create an office that will build and help build the expertise and resources needed to effectively respond to these serious crimes. I believe it's important for the statewide agency to be under the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and the Department of Public Safety. You know, that agency, the BCA, is one that I had the privilege of working with for many, many years. It's one of the best investigative agencies, not just in our state, but in our nation. Animal cruelty crimes can often be complex. Cities and counties need a qualified source to call upon to help share information and knowledge and experience on animal law, investigations, and prosecution. Training is essential in this area for effective enforcement, and the Office of Animal Protection will provide that critical training. Crime data and prevention measures are also needed to help stop these crimes before they occur. The Office of Animal Protection will be able to help identify these crimes and support criminal investigations of animal cruelty throughout our state and lead prevention efforts in this important area. This bill, this office, if it's created, will help our state's law enforcement agencies and prosecutors in their efforts to pursue these serious crimes of violence and in doing so, protect not only these defenseless animals, but the people in our state as well. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to testify in support of this important bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Reese Frederickson.
Chair Mueller,
go ahead.
that testifier is coming from Greater Minnesota and hasn't arrived yet. So I'd recommend moving forward. If he does arrive and it's time permitting, we could have him testify. But I think best to just move forward at this point.
Yep, that sounds good. And we are laying this bill over, so we would have the opportunity to do that. Let's see, anybody else from the public who wishes to testify? We had one person sign up, Jenna Washi. Yep, come on down. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representatives. Pleasure to be here. My name is Jenna Washi. Lieutenant Michael Fry and I co-wrote the original Office of Animal Protection Bill, House File 1850, that was introduced in February of 2023. We worked together as civilian and sworn partners for many years to investigate animal crimes and cruelty in the city of Minneapolis. There are unique skill sets and knowledge needed to successfully investigate these types of crimes. This direct experience with crime victims and those impacted by these crimes showed us the gap in statewide animal cruelty enforcement. We wrote the original Office of Animal Protection Bill to fill that gap. The original bill focuses on crimes related to household pets in Minnesota and provides for the directed enforcement of laws utilizing law enforcement officers of animal protection, similar to how DNR officers enforce wildlife laws. Livestock and agricultural animal laws are enforced by the Board of Animal Health, so this would not create overlap or redundancy. We took the time to meet with and gather input from stakeholders in this field to ensure that this bill would meet the needs of the state and provide enforcement for the existing animal cruelty laws. House File 3799 is very similar to the Companion Animal Board Bill, as it does not include any enforcement capabilities. It only puts in place an additional advisory function limited to providing guidance on animal topics. This bill causes redundancy by overlapping with multiple other departments and divisions already tasked with regulating wildlife, livestock, and others. It will cause confusion for both the public and these entities. Minnesota is long overdue for a statewide agency with the capabilities to enforce animal cruelty laws and provide the support needed for those negatively impacted by these crimes. House File 3799 does not meet that need. I encourage you to support the original Office of Animal Protection Bill, House File 1850, and vote no on House File 3799 today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your testimony. Anybody else from the public who wishes to testify on this?
Chair Mueller, I believe our second testifier actually just arrived.
Okay, great. Come on down. Good timing. We appreciate you driving here. Welcome to the committee. Will you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Reese Frederickson. And I've served as the Pine County Attorney for the last 10 years. I've been a prosecutor for over 16 years. I am currently a member of the Animal Cruelty Advisory Council for the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, and I'm co-author of the Animal Cruelty chapter for the Minnesota Judges Criminal Bench Book. My county is in a rural area, but we've seen all types of crimes involving animals, from intentional abuse to organized animal abuse such as cockfighting, to neglect to animal sexual abuse. And this has been for all animals. In nearly every animal cruelty case I prosecuted, I've seen offenders who have also committed acts of child abuse, vulnerable adult abuse, criminal sexual conduct, and domestic violence. Animal cruelty crimes are often a precursor to or interrelated with these other types of crimes. Communities need assistance with animal cruelty crimes, including expertise, legal, financial, and where to find resources. I believe this office will provide it. Animal cruelty crimes are not rare. In my experience, I've found that they often do not get reported, or there's confusion on who to report it to. Once a crime is reported to law enforcement, additional resources are typically needed to carry the case through to a successful conclusion. Those resources include training on how to collect evidence, where to place animals once they are seized, how the seizure process works, advice for prosecutors such as sentencing possibilities, psychological rehabilitative services, and prosecution strategies. The Minnesota legislature has always supported animal protection. First animal cruelty law in Minnesota was passed before statehood. This bill recognizes what the state has known for over a century, that animal cruelty must be taken seriously. This office will work to build resources to help those tasked to enforce the law. So I strongly support HF 3799, create an Office of Animal Protection. I thank you for your time.
Thanks for your testimony. All right, we'll move on now to member discussion. Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Norris, for carrying this bill. I've spoken to folks who support it, and the way it was presented to me is something that, it's a need that I think does need to be filled in terms of just making sure that the laws that we have on the books are being enforced and that folks know how to respond to these complaints. My concern, I think, was fleshed out by the public testifier, who I'm grateful for, of potential unintended consequences of the way this is currently drafted. My question is, can you tell me what it is you're trying to achieve in 5.3 through 525 with the inclusion of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals chapter in Crimes of Violence?
Representative Norris.
Chair Mueller and Representative Hudson, appreciate the question. I think what we're trying to accomplish in that section of the bill is to treat animal cruelty like what it is. It is a crime of violence. I think in the testimony we've heard today and some of the materials you have in your member packet, the link, well, first of all, there's the violence that can occur to the animal itself, but then also the strong link to human violence warrants this crime being treated as a crime of violence under our state statutory scheme.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Norris. What does that mean in terms of how it's prosecuted?
Representative Norris.
Chair Mueller, Representative Hudson, perhaps nonpartisan staff might be better equipped to go into the nuances of what a crime of violence brings in terms of how cases are prosecuted. But needless to say, this is a collection of crimes that the state of Minnesota has deemed to be connected to violence, and therefore, given the connection, animal cruelty to violence, it seems appropriate that it be in the crime of violence collection of crimes under our state statutory scheme.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Norris. I must confess to having not read through Chapter 343 recently, but just looking at some of the chapter titles and comparing them to what we consider to be crimes of violence. I mean, under crimes of violence, we have things such as murder, manslaughter, aiding and suicide, which is interesting, assault in various forms, robbery, carjacking, things that I think uncontestably qualify as violence. But then when you move over to the cruelty of animals chapter 343, we're looking at things like docking horses, injury to birds, artificially colored animals. And again, having not recently looked into the details of what these things are, I'm just wondering to what extent these crimes deserve to be on the same level as the current crimes of violence. Would you be willing to speak to that?
Yep, Representative Norris.
Yeah. Chair Mueller, Representative Hudson, I think you've cited a couple of examples from a pretty extensive list that runs about 22 lines long in the statute of what constitutes a crime of violence. I think some have probably a clearer connection to violence. There are some in here that might have less of a direct connection to actual physical violence. But what I would say is that when you look overall, this notion of animal cruelty, these are oftentimes crimes of violence. And just because the violence is occurring to an animal rather than a human, I don't think there should be a distinction under our statutory scheme that would distinguish between those two, especially given the strong link between the animal violence and the human violence as well.
Representative Hudson.
Madam Chair, in conclusion, can I inquire of nonpartisan staff what the impact of including this chapter in crimes of violence would be in terms of prosecution?
Ben Johnson.
Madam Chair, Representative Hudson and members, as a first note, this crime of violence definition only applies to felony convictions, so if any of the crimes that you mentioned are not felony offenses, they would not fall under that particular definition. This is the crime of violence definition that is in 624.712. That's the firearm chapter. So the direct impact of this is that someone who is convicted of a felony level offense that's a violation of Chapter 343 would be prohibited from owning or possessing a firearm. There are multiple other places throughout statutes that have incorporated this particular definition, but it does not change how a particular offense is prosecuted. The immediate impact is the person would be prohibited from possessing a firearm.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you very much for that clarification, and thank you, Representative Norris, for your answers.
Representative Curran.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't need a lengthy response to this. I just wanted to, it came up a little bit earlier that we do have a way to address this currently in statute with the Minnesota, the Federation of Humane Societies. And if we could just, if you could give a brief, maybe why we would need to create this office versus expand or fund what we currently have.
Representative Norris.
Yeah, Chair Mueller, Representative Curran, this office is designed to take a little bit more comprehensive approach in terms of training, tools, and resources. There's 5 different disciplines that are outlined in the bill, including things, I believe, like forensic veterinary medicine. This is a broad issue, and we feel like it's best tackled by having a dedicated office that can bring together all those different disciplines under one roof.
Representative Whitty.
Thank you, Chair Mueller. Thank you, Representative Norris, for bringing this forward. And, I had some people in my office, and I was very interested in this, because I know these are incidents when we get them on the street that don't happen very often, but can be very complex. So I like the idea of the resource. I was a little confused by the testifiers. I agree with former County Attorney Backstrom that these are very complicated cases, and the investigation tools and all that. So is this office, and a lot of times out in our cities and our counties, these are non-licensed officers doing the investigation of the crime. So in the BCA, will there be a licensed officer that will be able to help and bring charges and all that and bring that resource to it?
Representative Norris.
Chair Mueller, Representative Whitty, for right now, the office under this bill is starting pretty small. It contemplates hiring a director. Our belief is that with the $350,000 appropriated, they might be able to hire a second kind of more administrative person. So probably not immediately, but the goal is that over time, that additional resources would be able to be added to the office. And I can imagine part of the idea of placing it within the Department of Public Safety is that you could have sworn officers who could help local jurisdictions carry out those sorts of tasks.
Representative Whitty.
Thank you. Yeah, my suggestion would be they can get trained, they can be that resource, but I do agree that these are very complicated cases to maneuver, and if the goal is to ultimately hold the people accountable, that might be an area that we could look at sooner than later. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Chair Becker-Finn.
Thanks, Chair Mueller. And just wanted to point out, one of the felony level offenses within Chapter 343 is about dogfighting, and we do know there's a connection between dogfighting and gang activity and drugs and other criminal activity. So just wanted to bring that up as one of the felony level offenses that would fall under Chapter 343 on the crime of violence side. So I think that is important because, we've already touched on the domestic violence and the other abusive things that happen that are connected with cruelty to animals, but that one hadn't been mentioned. So just wanted to note that for the record.
Thank you. We always appreciate your attention to the words on the page. Thank you. Representative Mueller.
Thank you, Chair Mueller and Representative Norris. Like many of my colleagues, when this was presented to me, definitely has all of the elements of making sure that we're protecting our animals and all of the linkage that we've been presented with. I did just have one question about Section 4, about the advisory committee. Most of the time when we look at advisory committees, there's actual stated people that will be appointed or things like that. And this is left blank. And so all it says is that committee members shall possess knowledge, skills, or experiences of the prevention, investigation, or prosecution of animal cruelty, on and on and on. And so can you give us flush any of that out right now so we kind of know what that is and what that advisory committee would look like?
Representative Norris.
Chair Moeller, Representative Mueller, we didn't want to be overly prescriptive in terms of outlining who is on this advisory committee. You're right that we take kind of different approaches sometimes in statute. Occasionally, it's more open-ended, like this bill is. In other cases, it's more prescriptive, where we say it shall have 15 members, and one shall be from this, and another shall be from that. Certainly open to suggestions. This bill is being laid over. If there are certain types of individuals, if there's additional experiences that you'd like to see represented on that advisory committee, I'm certainly happy to have that conversation, and we could look at adding that to the bill if it decides, or if the chair and the committee ultimately decide to have it go forward.
Representative Mueller. Oh, no, I couldn't tell if that was a hand raised or that was the stop.
That was
Okay.
push the mic back.
All right, yeah, it's good I'm not like an auctioneer. I'm really bad at like figuring out what the
Now
symbols
I'm
are.
buying
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Representative Grassel.
Again, just going off of Rep. Mueller's, how many members would be on this committee? And, because I see they would be getting a per diem and expenses.
Representative Norris.
Chair Mueller, I'm just double checking here. I don't think that the bill actually specifies the exact number of members of the committee. And somebody correct me if they're seeing it elsewhere, but I don't think it does.
That's why I asked.
Anything further,
Might
Representative
be
Grassel?
something that would be kind of important.
All right, Representative Engen.
Thank you, Chair Moeller, and thank you, Representative Norris. I know we talked on the phone yesterday. We had some questions on this. Definitely in support of the overall goal here. I think there is a really strong link between animal cruelty and crimes of violence. We see that often, and giving more resources so we can actually prosecute this crime, find it, go after it. That's a good thing. One of the questions I do have, and I know I brought it up yesterday, but with this advisory committee, it's pretty open-ended. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of definitions or direct guidance as to what the makeup of that advisory committee would look like. I don't know about you guys. I had bacon for breakfast this morning. That in and of itself could present a question to an advisory committee. When I saw a post also when I was looking it up while eating my bacon that PETA says that it's unreasonable and unjustified that we're killing animals and eating them. Could that potentially open the door for some really kind of not the intended goal of addressing animal cruelty? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Representative Norris.
Yeah, Chair Moeller and Representative Engen, appreciate the question and appreciate the phone conversation we were able to have yesterday. Certainly on the advisory committee, there could be a wide range of perspectives, and I would actually hope that there would be a wide range of perspectives on the advisory committee. I think that's the role that an advisory committee should play in the process. Regardless of what views are represented on that advisory committee, to the extent that we're worried about enforcement actions, those enforcement actions can only be taken by the local county attorney. This office does not have the authority to prosecute individuals under the animal cruelty statutes. So I envision this advisory committee as a place to have robust discussion about how can we best provide the tools, the training, and the resources needed to prevent animal cruelty, and if it does occur, to help with enforcement. But in terms of actual enforcement actions, that would always sit at the local level with the local county attorney.
All right, any further member discussion? Lead Novotny.
Thank you, Chair Mueller. Representative Norris, have you been in contact with the Humane Society? And maybe I missed this in your presentation. Have you been in contact with them? They already have investigation and enforcement authority in this state. How do they feel about this?
Representative Norris.
Chair Moeller, Lead Novotny, they stopped by my office and had just a brief conversation a while back. I think that was also when the bill was in a very different form. I have not heard from them since.
Lead Novotny.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Norris, I'll touch base with you afterwards on this, but I think we're My concern when I read this bill to start with is that we're kind of reinventing the wheel. And, you know, one person in the state the size of Minnesota won't really make that much difference when we have a fairly robust statute on animal cruelty already, and we've got systems. Every municipality must have some sort of animal control investigative unit, and we have, you know, I've worked with the Humane Society on investigations, one of the pretty high-profile dogfighting case. You know, they have pretty good experts, so my concern is we're just reinventing the wheel. That's my position. Thank you, Chair.
Any closing remarks, Representative Norris?
Yeah, Chair Moeller, and appreciate the conversation we've had here with the committee. Overall, I think this is a good step forward in terms of tackling the issue of animal cruelty in our state. It's focused on providing that training, the tools, and the resources. I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this approach is the emphasis that there would be in the resources to help with the training and prevention so that we head these cases off before there's even a need for investigation and enforcement. And appreciate the committee hearing it and entertaining it for possible inclusion in the omnibus.
Thank you so much for presenting the bill, for the good discussion from members today. And I renew my motion and lay over House File 3799.